Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, was directed by Chris Columbus, the same guy who directed the first Home Alone film, and this is the sequel to Home Alone, and this is basically the same exact story, sort of the same exact story. Kevin McAllister, who's played by Macaulay Culkin, and it's basically about Kevin and his family are going over to Florida, I think it is, for vacation for Christmas and stuff like that. But they what the family don't know is that apparently Kevin has entered the wrong flight on the way to the airport and stuff like that, and that accidentally sends him to New York City while his family is in Florida, and he's basically living a life in New York and stuff like that, and he's basically alone in this big apple in the big city and stuff like that, when the two burglars that are back, Marv and Harry, who were the wet bandits, who are now known as the sticky bandits, are after Kevin McAllister once again. This movie is hilarious. It's definitely a good sequel. Is it as good as the first Home Alone? No, it is not. But I think it's a very great movie, and it is respectable enough. I think this movie has gotten better with age, though, even though critics really panned this movie down to the floor. But I thought this movie was very entertaining and stuff like that. Even though this movie did have a couple of plot holes here and there and stuff like that, it did have some elements that were in the first movie. Like I said, the story's really not that different. But I have to say, this isn't better than the first Home Alone. But it could be more entertaining than the first Home Alone. There are some scenes in this movie, which I'm not going to spoil, just in case if you haven't seen the first or second Home Alone, but you should have by now. But anyway, there are some really good scenes, and a sort of how can I put it? Similar scenes and stuff like that are in the first and Home Alone that you'll definitely find in the second one. The characterization in this movie is almost just like in the first movie. The casting in this movie is top notch. I love Kevin McAllister in this movie. Macaulay Culkin was an amazing child actor back in the 90s and stuff like that. He was like the child hero of children actors and actresses. He was and stuff like that, and it's really, really cool and stuff like that. He's amazing in this movie, as long as the other actors and actresses and stuff like that. And I think all their performances were great. I had no problem with any of the acting or the directing in this movie. I thought the directing in this movie was very stellar too. This movie is probably more hilarious than the first one. I don't care if you haven't seen this movie. I'm gonna spoil a scene in this movie. I don't care. So, there's a scene in this movie in Home Alone 2 where Kevin takes his uncle's balloon it was something like one of those pool things, and it was like a clown, and he used it in a bath or a shower, and to make it when Tim Curry enters the hotel room, he comes in the bathroom and he sees the dancing thing behind the curtain, but he doesn't know he thinks it's a person. And the reaction when the audio of Kevin when he sneaks, when he spies on his uncle in the shower, he's like, "Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly." He records that audio and actually uses that on Tim Curry to scare him away. I was weak. That part had me dying. That was probably the best part of the entire film. It has to be. Marv and Harry, amazing characters in this movie, just like they were in the first one. It's hard to compare on their characters, how they were better in the first or the second one. I think this one, they really improved because they were a little more serious and stuff like that. In the first one, they were more funny characters. In this one, they're still funny, but they're a little more serious too. And I think that's what brought to both of their characters and stuff like that. And I love how they did something different and not just make Kevin McAllister just stay home alone again, because it's going to be the exact same story. They actually let him go in the real world all by himself with no one basically to protect him. And if you think about it, that's kind of, if you really don't mind, it's kind of cool. But at the other hand, it's kind of scary too. Because I would really want to be a guy who would be home alone all by myself, but out in the city alone with no one, that's kind of like on edge and stuff like that. But this movie is really entertaining. It does it right for a sequel to a very successful film, Christmas film. This sequel actually does a lot of it's a very effective movie. I didn't really have a lot of issues. I think the only couple of issues that I had, the only issue that I had with it is that basically sometimes the humor gets too much of itself sometimes, and I think a couple scenes of that involve humor in this movie, I think that's when the movie can derail a little bit. But it wasn't really bad. It wasn't just look like I looked at that and said, "Oh, that's bad. I hate that. I hate that scene. They shouldn't have added that in that movie." And it wasn't like I said that. I think it's just because a couple of the scenes that had too much humor and stuff like that. Well, not even the ones that had too much humor. When they went a little over the top, I think it just kind of derailed the movie. But this isn't a terrible movie. It's really great. It's not as good as the original Home Alone. I'm going to be honest, it's not. But I think it's a really great movie. And a sequel, too. It's really a very good Christmas movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking this one out. Even if you haven't even seen the first Home Alone, which by now, what the heck are you doing if you haven't? The directing in this movie is really good. The setting is so smart in this movie. And I liked how, like I said, I liked how they went to a different route and not just make that Home Alone first movie kind of story thing. Even though they kind of did it, but they kind of switched it a little bit. The characters are really interesting. The camera work is pretty good for a 90s movie, too. Some 90s movies that have camera work, they're really some different to their counterpart movies and stuff like that. Sometimes, well, actually, all the time, I really don't care. I really don't care. I just mostly focus on like the directing and the storyline and the actors and stuff like that. That's mostly what I focus on when it comes to movies. But I'll have to say, this is a really great sequel that's filled with a lot of laughs. It's not as good as the first Home Alone, but I think it's really more entertaining than the first Home Alone. There's a lot of laughs that I got a kick out of this film. Kevin McAllister is still Kevin McAllister in this film. He hasn't changed at all. And the burglars are still the burglars. They really haven't changed at all either. So they sort of changed, not really with the humor, but the seriousness, it's really, like, Marv and Harry, they've got it. Like, they're just amazing characters who are played by two very talented actors. And even though this isn't as great and successful as the first Home Alone, there are some really good elements. There are some slapstick jokes and stuff like that, and some things. There are some unnecessary things that are happening in the movie that shouldn't be happening. But other than that, I think this is a really great sequel to a very successful Christmas movie. I got involved into the story. The story hooked me, just like the first Home Alone hooked me. I didn't have any problem with the stories or the actors or the directing in this movie. The only problem I had with the stories is sometimes in a couple of scenes where it has humor, the movie kind of derails a little bit, but that's it. I'll have to say, this is definitely a movie that you should definitely check out around the holidays. It's one that I really should highly suggest. Not as great and successful as the first Home Alone, like I already said. But if you haven't seen any of the Home Alone movies, I recommend starting off with the first one, then this one. You don't necessarily have to watch the third or the fourth and the fifth movies, because they're not really that important, in my opinion at least. The third one's okay, but when it gets to the fourth movie and the fifth one, I think they get a little too much and stuff like that. But other than that, the first two Home Alone movies, they're the best ones out of all the other ones and stuff like that. This one's really great and hilarious and more entertaining than the first Home Alone, but it's not better. It's not better than the first Home Alone or even as good as the first Home Alone, but it is more entertaining in my opinion at least. I'm gonna give Home Alone 2 Lost in New York an A-. So guys, thank you so much for watching my movie review of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. Look forward to my review of The Preacher's Wife along with The Godfather. I can't wait to review that movie. I'm so excited. I'm gonna review How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm gonna review The Nightmare Before Christmas. And we'll see what other movie reviews we have coming. Stay tuned for like other content that I make. Reaction videos, I'm gonna start doing those. I'm gonna try to do reaction videos more frequently. I can't promise that I'm gonna do reaction videos frequently. I will try. And I'll also try to do gaming videos more frequently too, and develop my gaming stuff and stuff like that. I'm gonna be doing more movie reviews, and fans for the Super Mario Bros. Series, stay tuned for more upcoming episodes and stuff like that. And as always, you guys are the best. And I love every single one of you. You guys just keep on watching and subscribing, and that's what I appreciate about you guys. You guys are always there for me, for my channel. When I need you guys, I'm always making videos. You guys are like always there for me, and I'm just so thankful to have you guys on my channel. And I just want you to know that every single one of you that always watch my videos, you rock, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You rock, and you know you do. And not just because you're a subscriber to me, like, you rock in general, like in the world, and like in stuff like that. Like, just you guys are the best. That's all I have to say, basically. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching all the time, and thank you guys so for watching this movie review. Look forward to other movie reviews along with other content. And as always, I am Mario Fan 520, and I will see you next time. Peace out.